Okay, so let's keep this rolling so we can somewhat keep to our schedule so we can all use the bar on time. We gotta have priorities. Ruffins clapping because I still owe him a drink. It's time for our lightning rounds. This is going to be fast and somewhat furious. Our speakers have 5 minutes to give a presentation, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. And then after we go through 5 people, we're going to break for a small group discussion. You can go talk to the person who really interested you. If none of these guys said anything interesting at all, you can go form your own small group. But I certainly think that all of them are going to deliver some pretty good information to us. And first up is Edson Tandoc from Mizzou, and he's going to tell us about the sort of the preliminary results of the survey that Lion is doing with RJI. And all the data isn't in yet, and especially if you have not participated in the survey, please click on that link in that email you got. Go fill out, take out the 15 minutes to fill it out. The more good data we get in, the better of a baseline we'll have for doing future surveys and really getting an idea of where we are in our industry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Edson. I'm from the Missouri School of Journalism. I'm a grad student there. Very happy to be here. First of all, thanks to everyone who taken time to fill out the survey. For those of you who have not, we'll send probably a round of reminder emails early next week. So as Dylan said, this is an ongoing survey. The first few responses are in, and I ran some analyses on the data that we have so far. First, just background of the survey. It's a web-based survey. About 50 people filled out the questionnaire. It's a long survey, so thanks to everyone who took time to fill it out. The average age is 49 years old. Been a journalist for 21 years. And 66.7% of the participants so far are males. So the preliminary findings. First, let's talk about Money Matters. We asked you about the average funding that you get monthly. This is, I took the median just because there's a wide discrepancy. The average from the 50 respondents is $4,000 a month. And these are the top sources of funding that based on your report. So 60% coming from advertising, under 10% coming from foundations, under 5% from personal funds, and then individual donations account for 4.43%. Corporate donations account for 4.17%. And then none of the respondents so far reported charging for content, so 0% from payroll revenues. The other side of Money Matters would be where you're spending the money that you have. For the monthly median value for monthly expenses is also about $4,000. So the top areas of spending is operations, so daily, or for some of you, weekly operations account for almost 25% of your expenses. About 17% they go to the salaries of your new staff, and another 15% to the management salaries, and then you also pay your freelancers, and that accounts for about 14%. Now, after Money Matters, let's focus on what really matters, your content. About 69% said you you update the site daily, and here are the main content areas where you publish most frequently. This was rated in a 5-point scale from 1 to 5, 5 meaning very frequently, 1 never. Top 5 content areas include government, crime, education, business, politics, and the arts. Celebrity news account, it was rated 1.44, so that's between rarely to never. In terms of your staff size, we asked you how many full-time editorial staff currently serve in your newsroom or for your site. About 37% said you have no full-time editorial staff. Another 37% said there's one. 17.4% had 2, 8.7% had 3 to 5 members, full-time members of the editorial staff. In terms of your revenue staff, 50% had no full-time revenue staff member, 37% had 1, 6.5% had 2, 6.5% had 3. In terms of your staff projections, we also asked you in the survey, how do you foresee your staff size would change in the next 5 years? In terms of editorial staff, 82.6% said it will increase in the next 5 years, 17.4% it will stay the same. In terms of your revenue staff, 86.4% said it will increase in the next 5 years, 9.1% it will stay the same, 4.5%, I think this is one respondent, said it will probably decrease in the next 5 years. And then finally, we talked about the audience. We asked you about the estimated number of unique visitors to the site monthly. That's 46,500. Again, this is the median value. In terms of page views, 120,000 a month. That's also the median value. And time spent on site, 2 minutes. And also we asked you how much your audience size has changed since you started your site. 70.5% said it increased a lot, 25% said it increased, 2.3% same, 2.3% decreased. So 90% of you said that you've seen, you've witnessed an increase in your audience size since the site started. And again, I cannot overemphasize, we would be very happy to get more inputs from you. This is an ongoing survey. This is very important not only to Lion, we will share the results with your membership, but it's also important for us in the academe, those of us teaching our journalism students, future journalists who hopefully you'd hire when they graduate, and also for us journalism researchers who are thinking about where the field is heading to, and also trying to figure out what would be a good sustainable business model that can sustain the journalism that we do. So, thank you very much.
Now we have on for, I think you've been on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Got a little bit of time for questions if anybody wants to dig into this one. Michele?
I'm just curious how you define operations, since it seems like a lot of money is going into that category.
In the survey, that item just referred to daily operations as opposed to salaries and things such as rent. So it was not as specific as we hope it to be, but it was shown against the other categories of expenses. So.
Was there any question that got to the source of startup revenue?
Startup? No, we did ask. We asked general categories of funding, but not for specifically for startups. Yeah.
There were so many questions we had to start pruning back. It takes about 20
yeah.
minutes to do the survey. So,
Yes, and we were also getting put a comments section at the end of the survey, and we've been getting a lot of good comments in terms of how to fine tune the survey. So, and also if more of you will take it and give us more comments, we can improve the instrument further. So.
Maybe some follow up digging into once you see some patterns, you can contact the publishers.
Yep.
Interview them more in depth.
Yes. Let's go. Yes.
Did you say how many people responded to it and what the response rate is?
Yep. We sent invitations to 97 members. We've had 50 completed responses so far, so that's more than 50%. But again, because we're dealing with a really small population, in terms of just adding more statistical power to run tests, the more the better. So hopefully we get more responses in the coming weeks.
Anybody else? Okay.
Right.
Michele, you're up.
I'm sorry.
Most of you guys know this, but we would not be here if not for Michele and her work over the last several years. She was the instigator behind the block by block conferences that really gave the impetus for us to get together and form Lion. And so we owe her so much.
Thanks, John. Thank you, guys.
Lion would not exist if she hadn't done what she did, bringing us together initially. And she's been digging into the field herself for
4
a
years.
while now.
It's come up.
4 years really digging in depth as well, and has some thoughts on her latest results.
Yeah. So how come it's not showing up? I got this in. That's not. Don't you put it in? It says. Well, let me go ahead. I wanna hang this up here. Yeah, I know we're on a schedule. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of things. I hope you guys aren't going to get like survey fatigue. Well, one of the things I want to talk about is a survey that I've been doing every year for the last 4 years. What it has yielded that I want to talk with you about today, for those of you who aren't aware of it, is something that, for lack of a better name, is called Michelle's List. And this year, I'm really excited to say that with help from the Patterson Foundation, Michelle's List was built into a searchable database. And this is really designed to be a resource for you folks. What this is not explained very well. What this is I collect and you give me information about your operations. And it goes into the database and yields out of that a site profile. So for everybody who participates and is added to the list, there is detailed information published to the database about your site. And it's everything from what you say your challenges are, what you're working on. I'll show you one here. This is sheep's head guides. What you're working on, some of it's narrative, what your challenges are, where you're having success, what you feel like you're doing well. We collect a lot of data, where your revenue falls in a range. I ask for your specific revenue, but that's confidential, but we report where your revenue falls in a range, your reach, your traffic, all kinds of information about the purpose of this is to help you see people who have like models and like challenges so that they can connect with you. And the really spiffy part of it, and Broad Street Ads actually built this for me, the really spiffy part of it that I didn't realize could be pulled off, but they pulled it off, is there are a number of filters. So you can not only search all the sites that have advertising revenue, you could search, for example, all the sites that have advertising as their primary source of revenue and they're making more than $100,000 a year from that revenue source. So you start to see how you can find out all kinds of things, look at peers who are working on things that are similar to what you're working on. I don't think we really have time for me to really demo this filtering feature, but if you want to look at that or we can talk about it afterwards, that'd be great. The other thing that I do with all the data is aggregate it as a survey every year. And this year we had publishers from 53 sites fill out the survey. And I want to thank all of you, some of you are in the room who did that. It's been very, very helpful in terms of insights. And I think here what I say, for those of you who know me have heard me say this before, but those of you who don't know me, I came into this, it was really all about the narrative for me. I came into this looking as a journalist about the very, very kind of dismissive, negative narrative about anything but, traditional media. That was 4 years ago. 4 years ago, you folks in many paradigms were like bloggers in PJs. right? And that just didn't sound right to me, and that's how I got into that. So part of it has been to connect you, but part of my work is really aimed at sort of making the narrative more accurate. The narrative of failure in this field is a very loud story. The narrative, the story of progress, is the quiet story. And that's why I did surveys, because I want to tell the quiet story. So I'm not going to go through all the survey results. They're on the web, you can look at them. But here's one where, I don't know how you can see this, but a third of you in this survey are turning a profit. A third of the sites in the survey. I'm guessing you're not up there in the big margins, because I know a lot of you take whatever additional money you take in and reinvest it in your operation. That's fantastic. Congratulations. Another third have developed a steady flow of revenue, although you're not yet profitable. And then the other third, they're either very new, they may be a little stuck. I'm not sure. It's not happening for them. But I look at that as like it's happening for 2/3 of you. That's reason to be optimistic, and for me to congratulate you, really. So that's one finding that I wanted to share. The other finding is very similar. I won't scroll down to the chart. Is about a third of you are actually paying yourselves a full-time salary, and another third of you are paying yourselves a partial salary. And I have spent so much time talking to folks among you who for years have not been paying yourselves that I just love that. I love knowing that. And again, it's really cause for optimism. Still in the revenue, and I think this is very similar to what RJI is finding, most of you are still at 50,000 or less. You're still bootstrapping. 2/3 of you are at 100,000 or less. So there's room for improvement. And then I guess the last thing I want to kind of emphasize is I really think that, and you folks are showing it here in your discussions, is there's this conversation that's going on up here about what's the model, what's the magic model for doing this. And you know what I'm talking about, some of the national websites that cover these issues. I don't think any of us knows what the model is, and I don't think we're going to really discover a model until we get the implementation right. I've talked to more publishers, unfortunately, who said to me, ad sales don't work for my site. And I say, and who's selling your ads? Right? And it's difficult when you're coming at it as a journalist, it's hard to manage, what do you know about selling or managing a salesperson? But I just really want to emphasize what I think is the importance of effective execution. So that if we're going to say an idea didn't work, we know it really doesn't work. Or if we're going to be able to say an idea does work, we're going to be able to say how it works and why it's effective and how it can be completed. So that's in closing why I think it's been so valuable to bring you together. It's been so valuable that, the Lion Board, you guys have worked so hard to form this association. And then the last piece of that I'll just add is we also developed a program called CJET, Community Journalism something, executive training. And it's heavy duty business training for people like you. And I think some of the people who've been participated in it will tell you that they have more revenue than they did as a result of that training, because they not only took the training, but they actually took the advice and applied the training. There's another round of it coming up next year. So, keep your eyes out for CJ. It's a training where you go on site and then you get mentoring afterwards. That's now been built in. So I think that could be very helpful. So if your site's not on my list and you think it should be, I'd love to get your business card. If you're interested in CJET, I'll get your business card and pass it on to the people who are interested. That's what I have. Man, we're so clear. Wow. Yeah.
What is the correlation between publishers paying themselves a salary and publishers who say that they are?
I don't know. I did not.
People who are not quite earning profit.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
I'm sorry. I'm wondering what the correlation is between the publishers who are say that they are earning a profit and those who are paying themselves a salary. Some of the people who are not saying that they're profitable may still be earning a decent living. It just
Right.
depends on their folks.
Right, that's a great question, and I can run that, I have not run it, but I'll run it and let you know. I think the whole concept, and you folks give me feedback here, I think the whole concept of turning a profit
Yeah.
is not, I mean, you're not out for the kind of margins that, Patch was somehow, thinking we're gonna.
Well, we're all saying we realize that the days of 30% profit margins are gone. We just want
Well, you're business, you're small business.
Yeah.
Right, so you're not looking for corporate margins. So profitable is a question, and again, as I said, I think anecdotally, talking to you all, what I see is you increase your revenue and you increase your capacity. You know what the next need is, the way to do another job.
Are you tracking revenue over time and also like how many sites have employees and how that's growing, how that's changing part-time?
Yeah, I have all that for the previous surveys. I did some of the comparisons are tough to make. I'm gonna try to go back and do more of that. I've been tweaking this. The survey is finally at a point where I think we've got most of the questions right. It took me like a couple of iterations. So I've got some apples to oranges on the revenue. I did not see any growth in the number of sites from previous surveys, or the proportion of sites from previous surveys that had broken above 50,000. But I would have to go back and look at that across maybe the age of the sites. I mean, you've got younger sites coming in. This is not tracking the same. There's a lot of overlap, but it's not tracking the same. So you've got newer sites coming in who were, earlier on the trajectory in terms of revenue. I'm thinking I'll add a question though about, did your revenue increase or decrease this year? But starting next year, I'm gonna field the survey early next year and ask you to update your profiles with 2013 information and try to get it published a lot earlier in the year. I think then I'll have apples to apples on that and be better able to answer that question.
How many of us are there? How many sites are there?
Well, there's all kinds of numbers. It really depends on the definition. If you sort of take everybody who's doing anything price-based, Lisa Williams talks about 4,000 or 5,000. That could be a blog. That could be a flow home operation like you folks have. I was just emailing with the guy at Street Fight, and he threw out an estimate of 600 to 700, which kind of sounds right to me. For just, I don't know what I have here. I should say for those of you who don't know, my list I have criteria for my list. I'm not really interested in documenting the broader universe, although I think it's important to do that. That's just not what I kind of define as my job. So my criteria, and they're on Michelle's site, they're very simple. Are there 3 legs on the stool? Is it evident to me when I look at that site that they meet journalistic standards? They're trying to be fair and accurate. They don't have to be high enough. They're trying to be fair and accurate. That there's some level of visibility and community engagement that's evident. A site where you can't find the name of the publisher or way to contact her, I would look twice at that and probably not include it on this. And most importantly, they're working on revenue. There's some indication, there's ads on the site, there's some indication that there's some serious effort going into revenue. And that's about 150 sites. Because what I wanted to, in my vision 4 years ago was again, they were saying, 90% of this is no good. And I was like, fine, I'm gonna find the 10%. We're gonna learn from the 10%. And it actually turned out to be about 10% because, a little less, because we looked at about 1,400 sites when we first made the list, starting in 2009. We started working on it. And we ended up with about 100 on the list. And
I remember the first conference, there was a debate, between should we be businesses and try to turn a profit,
Right.
or should we be that's all we want.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other 5-minute discussion. You guys,
That debate's pretty much been settled by the people who are still doing it.
well, some of us have been talking about the difference between 4 years ago and now. Maybe I'll just kind of close with that. But, you know, the 4 years ago, we were remembering it was like hash was going to kill you guys. It was the fear of hash comments. And now, you folks, you have so much more confidence. You know so much. You know amazingly a lot more, you know, that you can share with each other. I mean, it's,
And we've all had lunch.
yeah.
We're still standing for it.
So, thank you.
And, Jan Schaffer of JLab is going to talk about, your study about the
No, next question. I didn't do that.
Well, then,
Because you called the next question for language. I just did it.
okay.
Okay, hi guys. For those of you who know us or don't know us, JLab got into this a number of years ago, in about 2005, and we had funding from the foundation to help seed startup of hyperlocal sites, and we have since funded about 100 startups as well as collaborative pilot projects. 77 of those were startups, and we've tracked the progress along the years. We also have a database of sites. Our sites are 600. They don't pretend to do criteria, but 600 out of 1,200, we really also try to track those who have gone out of business, and that's kind of catch can. Thanks, Travis. Catch can to determine, you know, to find your own accidentally. I will say that going out of business does not necessarily mean a site has failed. And what we have actually seen is sometimes going out of business means you've done such a good job, you get offered a real job or another job, or you get asked to run for public office sometimes, or you get asked to do something else that takes you in another direction. I decided on the breakout session, I'm going to do more on our recent report on collaborations with public radio, which I think is a really important avenue for you all to start thinking about. I'm just going to breeze through some takeaways from being in this arena for about the last 8 years. You know, when you say content is king, it's not only important to have good journalism content, but I think it's also important to have frequency enough content that you can support a daily email newsletter. So that really means generating anywhere from 5 to more stories of some sort a day. And if you're a one-person shop, you may not do that all by yourself, so you may need to be recruiting the poly-influentials in your community that can write a legitimate guest columnist. You might be doing some aggregation. It's not just plain old aggregation, but that might be value-added aggregation. I'll talk about that in a moment. Standalone photos, captions, even a crowdsourced query that reaches out and says, you know, we want to report on this. Tell us a little bit more about what your concerns are. I think that one of the favorite questions I've seen used to generate some sense about what a community wants to talk about is, Myrtle Beach Sun News did this a number of years ago, is to send out a postcard in your community and ask people, what makes you the maddest in this community right now? And again, if you start tapping that emotional core, you get an amazing array of responses that sort of pull some threads out that you can start reporting on. We consulted a little bit on a project in Philadelphia that led to the creation of a site called Access Philly. And Access Philly had a $2 million runway. It got wonderful support from the William Penn Foundation. But it is now almost on the verge of going out of business. And so I say, why, you know, I get another call saying, what do we do now? How do you blow a $2 million runway? And I think one of the ways they blew it was simply that they didn't have enough content. Access Philly is on your far left. And if you look at the site, there's not a lot there. Not a lot goes up every day. They have great databases, they have occasional investigative stories, but there just is no there there. In that 2 years that they had a $2 million runway, Hidden City, Philadelphia came up out of whole cloth and it's essentially eating Access Philly's lunch. Technically Philly. Not only came up out of whole cloth, but it's since expanded into Brooklyn and Baltimore. So, you know, you may not think of yourself in a competitive space, but I do think that often you are in a competitive space, and one of the ways to get to that space is to think about generating a lot of content. If you can't do it yourself, define your content very broadly. When I talk about value-added aggregation, you know, we see a lot of rolling, here's what's happening in other media. But I think there are ways that you can create content that does more than that. It can be a things we like session that says we really like the story, we really like the way it's framing, well said, you know, pat on the back, pull out a phrase, tweet a phrase. Emerging issues that you think you're going to probe and you want some community input questions and stories that are not answered yet, but you can highlight the question, invite people to respond to it. Inviting your audience, your readers, to participate and nominate in some way some of the things that you're covering. I know from reading grant proposals for our funding that we often get proposals for an enormous amount of expenditure on technology. And what I think you need to start is sort of a minimum viable product. This is a site, the Deerfield Forum in New Hampshire, that was launched in 2005. It still uses Bulletproof for its content management system, but it's been going since 2005, right? It's been going for 8 years. It's a very robust site. They don't need a lot of bells and whistles, and they make it work. I think that as you think about collaboration, you need to think about doing it smartly. Certainly you want to collaborate for distribution, you need a megaphone. But I think you want to collaborate for some guerrilla marketing, and as well, I'll talk a little bit more about partnerships with legacy media and public media, which can help you do a lot more, be recognized and build a brand for you. Content frequency we mentioned, but you can also collaborate, I think, for multimedia, especially if you're partnering with a community college in your community that can build you some sites, if you're partnering with a public media. And I think we're seeing increasingly grants are hard to get, but joint reporting grants are easier to get. So you see people like New Jersey Spotlight working with WNYC in New York City to report on Hurricane Sandy. Those kind of grants can give you a little more juice in terms of building out your content. One of the overlooked areas I see are, one of the things that legacy media has abandoned are arts and culture sites and STEM projects. If you want funding for your site, go after STEM money, because you can get it from your state government, you can get it from your local government. There's a lot of interest in building out STEM enterprises. We have worked with a site called Explore Utah Science right now that is partnering with its local public radio station there. Very robust area, a lot of activity happening. You can get higher ed money, you get legitimate news stories. Likewise with arts and culture sites, most news organizations have pretty much abandoned covering their local arts and culture scene. You get these little startup sites coming. So they're a way to sort of help build out your content if you partner with them. I think that finally, it's really worth rethinking, and I grew up in the old journalism where, you know, you were sort of dispassionate observer in the community. But it's worth rethinking how you want to position yourself in your community. Do you want to cover your community, or do you also want to build your community? And the build your community part is something that makes a lot of us as journalists squirm, because we used to do that, okay? And we don't always like doing that. But I think that as you develop templates to think more and more about whether your journalism can be just a commodity or whether it can be a catalyst as well to doing well in community, you'll have some very interesting, not only audience development opportunities, but you'll have some very interesting sponsorship opportunities as well. But it's a different kind of journalism than many of us grew up with. It doesn't have to be a bad journalism, but I think it's a different kind of journalism. It could be solutions driven, you can present a menu of options, you can create events that are conversations about problems in your community, but it is repositioning yourself in a different place. Lastly, One of my favorite things came up from INM, the Investigative News Network, this year, where they've developed with the Ethics and Excellence in Journalism Foundation a tool that allows people to hit like on a story. And if you like the story, a local foundation or INN in this case will contribute $1 to your site, and the Ethics and Excellence in Journalism Foundation will contribute $1 to your site. So you can sort of think about other ways to try to get sponsors to monetize what you're doing on your site just by audience reaction to what you're producing. So I'm going to wrap it up there, and we'll talk about radio in the breakout session questions.
Can you say it again, how do we get these people to send us $1 for each one?
I suggest you get INN to give you, how many of you are using Largo? Have a look at Largo. If you use the content management system Largo that INN has developed, you know, it's a plugin. And it's a very pretty, the Yosemite Grand site. What's the name of your site?
Yellowstone Gate.
Yellowstone Gate is a Largo platform. It's a beautiful site. They're giving it away free to you guys too. You don't have to be INN members. So, you know, take a look at the Lens is using it. Go to the Lens and you can see on any individual story how that particular tool works. Yes?
What's STEM?
Oh, science, technology, engineering and math. It's very hot right now. I run a multimedia entrepreneurs grant program, and this year we got 7 STEM proposals. We've never received a STEM proposal before. And we got 7 STEM proposals, so very hot subject area. Yes.
I wanted to ask about that because we cover Oak Ridge. You know, we have Oak Ridge National Lab, which is the Department of Energy's largest multidisciplinary research lab.
Right.
But I think they also do a great job of posting a lot of STEM information on their website. And they have all kinds of information about current research. So I'm wondering how I might be able to
Harness that, huh?
capitalize if they're already publishing a lot of it. I don't know what areas unexplored.
Well, you could also be a driver's hat and point to it. You could distill it into the, you know, STEM things we like this week, or you could actually recruit guest columnists to go deeper on a particular article that you've seen there that you like, or who might rewrite it for more of a general audience rather than an engineering audience or something. Probably get a grant to do that too. Yes.
I guess it's more of a PSA. When you look at STEM or STEAM funding right now, don't just look at the higher education facilities, also look at youth development. It's the big thing right now in terms of trying to reinvest in the youth in your communities. A lot of the grants that are taking place right now, they need applicants and local media companies right now to push out the initiatives. So I would definitely strongly advocate going back to philanthropy engagement. It's such a huge area for youth. Target for youth is huge right now.
And it gets you out of the media funders into a whole different funding bucket, which I think is, you know, very useful. And it's very hot. It's very hot right now. So.
We decided it'd be a good idea to expand our conversation beyond just journalists and those people who study us, and bring in some experts in that who've been working on journalism projects that have a slightly different take on things. And Travis Smith from Pop Studios has worked with a number of line members and also much more high-profile websites as well. He's going to teach us how to make the conversations on our websites go a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah. So my name is Travis. I'm from Pop Studios, and I've been working at this intersection of journalism and technology for my whole career. I started working with the LA Times on their website, and have since gone into building websites for news organizations. a number of different news organizations. And the thing that I get out of that most of all is that I get to work with a number of different systems and constantly try new things and experiment. Different publishers will have different ideas or different projects for me, and then I can kind of play with them. So of course, I'm going to start with a survey. Surveys would be hot today. How many people here have commented on their websites? Raise your hand. Nice and high. Hey, keep your hands up. How many of those people use a third-party commenting system? Okay, and how many of you use like the built-in commenting system for your tool? Okay, of those people, how many of you haven't changed your commenting system in like 2 or 3 years or more? So it's kind of what you built, and then you just kind of let it go. Well, there's been a lot of changes in the way that, so that was actually more than 50% of you. A lot of the sites that I've built still use their own commenting systems, but there have been a lot of changes in online news commenting systems, not just online news, but comment systems in general. So I'm just going to show you a couple of the things that people are doing now. Obviously, these are the kind of people who are going to be commenting on your site. You definitely got to worry about spammers, but for the most part, there's sort of 3 things you want to do with comments. You want to try to keep bad comments out, spam, trolls, bad quality. People are trying to just promote themselves. You want to try to get the best quality comments to be put in front of your readers, and you want to make sure that the system is sort of up and running and solid at all times. That's what I think 3 things that the commenting system needs to do. This is it's hard to do wide screenshot. That's going to turn on its side. Not to. So the New York Times has a really amazing commenting system. At the bottom of all their stories, they have editorially selected the top comments, and they show usually about 3. You can click the little blue bar here at the bottom, and it'll expand out and show you what the best comments are. Then you click again, and you get all the comments are arranged chronologically and things like that. It's a highly intensive editorial system, and it's not for you guys. It's a tremendous amount of work to do a custom commenting system like this. They built it all themselves. It scales really well, but it's not. You need something that's going to work for your sites with sort of a minimum of your own involvement. Not no involvement. I really don't want to advocate that, but you want it to be a minimum of your own time. A lot of sites have comment systems that they've built themselves. This, YouTube's commenting system, also custom built by Google, it's actually really poorly done, and it has some of the worst quality comments on the internet. It's kind of horrendous. So I would just cut the screen off at that point. I think that this shows that even really big companies can do commenting wrong. The New York Times obviously does a very good job with trying to encourage civil discussion and useful commenting on their system. Google has sort of thrown their site to the wolves, and I think you want to take a lesson here that just because you're big and you're doing it yourself and it's fully customized doesn't mean you're necessarily going to end up with the best quality comments. There's some sort of there's something that you need to do to make those comments happen well on your site. So there are several third-party commenting systems that have come up. The most commonly known one is called Disqus, or Disqus, I've heard it pronounced too. The advantage of this is you just throw a line of JavaScript or a couple lines of JavaScript onto your page, and then the Disqus comment box will materialize on your site in that place, and it gives you the ability. People will have the ability to fill out a comment about whatever article you attach that comment to. The thing about Disqus is that they've actually done a lot of work to test, like, is this going to work well on mobile browsers? Is this the right size comment box? Is this font really the right font? There's a reply button. If that's sort of the right place to put it to optimize the amounts of replies. So that's also the disadvantage. When you use one of these third-party systems, you don't get a lot of control over the look of the Disqus commenting module. You do also get additional features like, this is a site called TruthDig, and it automatically shows other conversations that are happening on the site for articles that are popular right now. And then this part here around the web actually is Disqus's monetization scheme. They throw articles that they think are relevant to the conversation that's happening on this page, and then if someone clicks on that, they get paid by these people who have paid to basically have their headlines show up on your site. You can choose to turn this off, but Disqus is free, so this is, Disqus gets to make money, and I think you will also get a small slice of money from having this little box of additional content on your site. Really the one on the left to you is more important because that's bringing people sort of around to other content on your site that's relevant. As Rich was saying earlier, this is a quick way to get relevant content on your articles at the bottom when people are kind of looking for more to talk about it, to read about. So that's one to discuss. Discuss this one with some features as well, kind of show like who on your site is the most chatty and things like that. I don't know how successful that is so far. Like I haven't seen a lot of results from my clients about whether or not that's working for them. But Discuss is very actively developing their commenting system, which I'm sure many of you are not, because like once it's built, you kind of leave it alone. The advantage of a third-party system is that it continues to improve, and you don't have to put the effort into it. There's another service called Livefire, with FYRE. It's very much like Discuss. It's a smaller player in the space. The two things that it does so far that I know that are different than Discuss. One is that as people comment, it kind of materializes and shows up right there on the page. So if it's a very current, popular topic, someone doesn't have to reload the page to see that more comments have come in, and that kind of spurs conversation and creates a more lively feel to the comment section. The second thing it does is that little @ sign there. It integrates with Twitter, so that if you log in with your Twitter name when you start to type something in and you mention @so-and-so, it'll fill in from their Twitter friends. It kind of has a really tight Twitter integration. Also, when you hit post, it can also publish your comment to Twitter and to Facebook and things like that. Discuss does that as well, but Livefire has a better integration. One thing I should add is that Discuss did a great survey about 6 months ago that said that 57% of all comments are tweetable, meaning they're 140 characters or less. So if you have a comment system that also lets people tweet at the same time, it's something that many people could take advantage of. Not, there are longer comments, but many of them are very tweetable, and then that sort of adds an opportunity for people to come back to your site through the comment system. So I do like Livefire a lot, but it is the smaller sort of player in the space right now. This one, really hard to see, but at the bottom there, it's Facebook commenting. Facebook offers their own commenting system. The advantage of this is that your comment system is totally tied to a Facebook activity. So if there's nobody can comment unless they have a Facebook profile, which means that they are in some ways probably a valid human being, because Facebook is very strict about that and tries to be. On the downside, nobody can comment unless they have a Facebook profile, and they have to tie their comment to the Facebook profile. So you lose anonymity, you lose people who don't have a Facebook account. And the other thing is any sort of control of the layout. So the Facebook comment system is it's just the block that you drop in. You have very little moderation power. It's good blocking spam, but and when someone posts on a comment, it also shows up on the Facebook wall, which is kind of nice from getting your story to spread point of view, but it's also very limited. So in this case, the Jewish Journal was very worried and had a lot of trouble dealing with controversial and incendiary posts on their site. So they went to the Facebook model. They've been incredibly happy with it. I don't know that it works for every client, but for them it was definitely the right answer. The last one, possibility, is no comments. Derek Fireball is a Macintosh news and tip site. He has never had comments available on his site. He just doesn't do that. You can have your conversation elsewhere. And Popular Science just recently made a policy decision that they're going to turn off commenting on their site entirely. They thought that it was too often promoting views that were in contradiction to the article to the accuracy and the facts in the article that they posted. It was just sort of tending to promote confusion about the things as opposed to clarity or additional conversation. I don't know that that's the best way to go. I think that as local publishers, you have not a responsibility, but an opportunity to be a place for discussion for your community, and that comments are very important to that. But it is something that some sites embrace for various reasons. So you don't have to offer comments. Make sure that the comments that you offer are valuable. One last thing I want to offer. I know that a lot of you are on WordPress. I don't know if all of you know that you can turn on different boxes that show different options for any post that you put on WordPress. It comes down from a little tab at the top that says Screen Options. And if you click the comments box and then reload, you get a little box that allows you to turn on and off comments for any individual post. So if you have commenting on your site, you're running a WordPress site, you can actually turn off comments on a post that you think is going to be particularly controversial. I know that some news sites do this for issues where the conversation just kind of goes round and round and never really adds value with a particularly attractive to spammers. You know, an article about hotels that suddenly gets like all this bad quality commenting. And the last thing about WordPress is there's a plugin that just recently changed its name to be called Comment. It used to be called Google Plus Commenting, which is why I'm mentioning it. Now it's called like Comment Extreme or something. But basically, there's only one plugin that I know of that allows you to post a comment and then also have that go to your Google Plus page where it integrates with a Google Plus profile. It's really rare to have that. So if you have WordPress, you do have an additional option of having people able to post comments and send it to Google Plus, which I think is kind of cool. That's my brief overview of the world of commenting. Any questions? Yes.
I didn't hear you pick a favorite.
I would say that my favorite right now is Discuss. I like the revenue opportunity, and I like just how much development in general they're doing on it. They used to be really bad with customer service and responsiveness. When I had a client who had troubles with them, they would just never get back to you or whatever. That's a problem with the premium model. It's sometimes hard to get anybody on the phone. But I also think that not every site should go to Discuss. There's different reasons to use different commenting systems, so it's not. I wouldn't always recommend that, but that is the one that I tend to try to make happen. So, yeah.
Does the lack of anonymity quash a lot of discussion on Facebook comments posts?
It creates a different type of conversation. I think that, again, depending on what your site is trying to do, anonymity, I think anonymity online is incredibly valuable. You know, people who try to say that, oh, you know, if only all comments have, you know, are tied to like a person's name, or you have to give a credit card, or you know, something to prove that you are a real person. I think there is a really strong role for anonymity online. When all the guys with the those papers and things like that. However, which predates however, I think that in some cases you want to have that tighter sense of community that real people, that real names create. I do think it's important that whatever commenting system you have, it allows people to kind of build up a reputation, that it has an image by it's not necessarily their face, but you know, people have an icon and an identity, so that as they have a conversation, people can start to judge, you know, what is this person saying, what do they like, and what else have they said. And a comment system that doesn't do that really isn't very valuable. Yes.
On the Discus, do you have to sign it? I kind of missed that.
Discus has many different options. You can have it allow guest posts. You can have it allow only Discuss accounts for people who can sign in with their Facebook account or with their Twitter account. You can have it so that all comments are pre-moderated, meaning nothing shows up until someone on your site approves it, or they're post-moderated. And there's actually one other thing about a lot of these third-party comment systems I didn't mention, which is that there's voting on many of the comments. So people on your site can say, oh, I like that comment, and then those comments will show up higher, and so you kind of get the best quality comments showing up at the top, which is nice. So whether you're signed in or not, people can still have the best quality comments show up at the top, but unless you're signed in, you can't vote on these things. And there's one other thing with the Facebook commenting, which is that if your friends comment on an article, those posts will show up at the very top of the comment, which is kind of cool in a very small community. You know, if one of your friends has said something on an article, that's going to be what you read, which is very much encourages discussion. Yeah.
Most of the third-party options are iframes. Are there any that aren't? And using iframe really creates a indexing get a really great conversation that happens on your site. It's not going to exist.
That used to be true. It's not true anymore. Google has put time and technology into making it so that comments that appear on the page because they're third party are nevertheless indexed by the search engine.
So that content actually goes.
Yeah, it totally used to be a problem where one reason to use an inbuilt comment system is for the search engine to choose. Now, third-party comment systems, the popular ones, Blackfire, Discuss, and some other ones, that content is indexed by Google, because Google really does want to get a sense of like, what's the content of this page and why would somebody find it valuable? Like, if they're looking for content, Google wants them to find it. So that is the case now. It didn't used to be the case. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
You've seen any value, we used to discuss, and I've turned off the links from around the web. just didn't really see like it was returning relevant results that were really well related to the stories that are on our website. But I'm wondering if we're missing out on a revenue opportunity. I mean,
Tens of dollars a month, absolutely. The clients that I have would use that. But first of all, you should know that whether or not you put in your business tax number or not, they are collecting money if those headlines show up. And so if you're using Discuss, you should go and like make sure you're going to get a check at some point for doing that. But with the revealing numbers from my clients, it's not a significant revenue stream. It's like I say, $50 a month, $130 a month. I mean, that's not nothing, but it's not significantly worthwhile. On the other hand, sometimes those headlines are sort of relevant to the content that you have. So I would totally do what you do, which is just watch them for a while, judge whether or not you think they are helpful, and if not, turn them off. Because if they're not relevant, people would be clicking on them anyways.
Just a quick question about Discuss. We use Discuss, and I recently deactivated that feature that shows the related content on my site next to the, belly fat stuff from other places on the web. Sometimes irrelevant stuff because I was making about $25 a month, but mostly because the relevant content on my site, we have bloggers, and if they go in and change the title of their posting, or if we change the title of one of our articles, then the Discuss related content links that would come up, when people would click on it, would just go to a 404. And I was thinking, well, maybe it just needs to refresh or something. But is there something that we could do with our settings that would stop that from happening?
Yeah, I can talk to you about that offline. There's ways to resynchronize things between your site and Discuss. So yeah, we can talk about that for sure.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
If Discuss already has a third-party commenting system goes out of business, what happens to the comments?
Very good question. If you're using WordPress, I believe they have a synchronization system between Discuss and the WordPress comments, so comments are kind of stored in both places. But I'm not sure about that. And certainly for some other sites, if they go out of business, those comments go away. You can export them and then try to import them into your system. They do have a decent exporting system, but yeah, that's a risk. Also a risk, like what if there's a court order or somebody wants to have the content of your comments and delete them or whatever, or I don't know, like that content isn't under your control. So that's a definite factor to consider.
So we can say somewhat on time. Let's get
Yeah, sure.
here. We're going to have a nice lengthy discussion for all of this, where you can really dig down into all of this stuff. One of the two of the biggest challenges we all face are the move to mobile, which myself, I'm better at and improve my site, and doing video, doing more creative things and really leveraging the internet, and not just doing what would be an old-fashioned print story and putting it on the internet. And here to talk about the nexus of those two, just a little bit about mobile video and how to do that well, is Jim Cook of Mission Data.
Hi, I'm Jim Cook with Mission Data. We're a little bit different than all the other speakers, I guess, a little bit. I'm thinking closer to Travis' company, but we do digital strategy, design, and development and consulting. And we work in a lot of various size firms. And we were very interested in coming here today and talking to this group because you guys are very entrepreneurial. We work with a lot of startups in the mobile space and the mobile video space. How many people or sites here have done responsive designs at this point? How many have experimented with actually building a native app at any level? Just a couple. So those native apps, like more simple, like RSS type. Okay. All right, what I wanted to do is just jump through a couple of real quick stats because we're in an increasingly mobile world, and the the demand for your content on mobile devices is just going to be overwhelming. So right now, we're seeing 500,000, iOS devices, 1.5 million Android devices. These are the kind of like daily numbers, and we're on track to reach more devices than there are humans on the planet by the end of this year. So, I mean, it's just very interesting where we're headed. And then each consumer in the U.S. at least is spending over 2.5 hours a day on those other screens, on those other devices. I can share with you later or by email my data sources here. I apologize, I didn't put the actual data sources in here, but various pieces of research show me that about 40% of that mobile traffic is based on news content that people are consuming on mobile. And then we get into the whole mobile video space. So last year, about half of the traffic on mobile has become video. And then, when we talk about live video, so live video is actually, people are actually more inclined to watch live video on mobile twice as long as they do like video on demand or other types of content. So based on some of these numbers, I was looking at so you combine tablet and mobile video, and it's accounting for a huge growth spurt this year, especially.
So what I wanted to talk about quickly is this is a huge opportunity, I think, for your group. Discovering your content, obviously via app stores. The whole growth, we've heard a lot of talk about the whole social, local, mobile media consumption. You're in the space of providing hyper-local content and taking advantage of the socialization of that type of content. So the monetization around local mobile content and video content is a huge opportunity. And then we have this phenomenon of YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest. People want to consume more visual types of content. What I call the YouTube generation right now is creating enough content that there is about an hour per person on Earth of content just on YouTube alone. And 52 or 92% of mobile video viewers actually socially share a piece of video or video content that they find. So mobile video content also, as we were talking about earlier, a lot talk about ads and ad revenue and things like that. Mobile ad displays and associated with video, advertisers that want to reach your audience, your local, specific audience to a particular geography are going to pay higher ad revenue rates to grab a mobile user in the context of, geographically where they might be at that time, based on, time of day, time of the week, or whatever it might be. So along with all this opportunity also comes a lot of challenges. So obviously developing a mobile strategy and an app product roadmap is not something, that you have a lot of time to spend on. You've got a lot of competition with people, the apps that they already have on their phones. They've got Yelp and Foursquare. I mentioned Go Everywhere. I don't know if people have seen that, but that's a native app that's on iOS and Android that you can choose what local area you want news and information and social crowdsourced content to come from. And then you've got just limited amounts of consumer attention. They've got Flipboard, CNN, owns Zeit now, and then you've got Pulse, and then Google Currents. There's just so many different apps that people have available to them. And then there's so many different development options and the time, expertise, and investment it takes. And then there's also dealing with all of the distribution, the distribution across all the different platforms and all the different devices. So the reason that Vinay's here, our product manager, the reason that we came here today was because we're in a very experimental mode where we'd like to talk to this industry about your needs in mobile and how we might be able to help you, because we don't have a specific price point as far as what we're trying to do, but we have a lot of experience in building mobile apps and specifically around mobile video, but to talk to you about what might work and what might not work and what kind of price points and what what might make sense for you to get into the into the mobile native apps and some of the benefits from that. I didn't want to go through all these points, but these are some of the points about our platform that we've built. So we've done things like Top Chef University. We've done some local smaller market television station mobile apps that actually are very close to your market, where they have local stories, local ads, and those kind of things. That particular entity wanted to address their audience, and their audience, they were losing their audience because of the amount of mobile traffic that they were seeing on their sites, and they just kind of jumped over the responsive and went right to native mobile. Any questions? It's a lot of information. Sure. Right. Right. Well, I would ask. There's been a lot of conversation about social integration. So, is anybody using Vine or Instagram's video capabilities, with any of your stories or with any of your communities? Nobody. Those are very viable audiences and a huge platform that is growing tremendously. It's short form video, but and it's mobile. Mm-hmm.
I guess one of the questions I have about app versus a mobile site is how many people are actually going to download your app? And there's the question about whether they pay for it or not.
Right.
The more local you get, the smaller the audience for any developer. So I'm looking at one of my towns is 11,000 people.
Right.
I have great penetration. I have about half of that. Out of that half, I mean, I'm taking, you can see I'm slicing the number down. I figure maybe 25 people are going to download my app if I pay $3,000 for it.
Yeah.
What's the argument for it for us?
It's difficult. That's part of the learning process. That's why I wanted to come to the conference and find out what your pain points are and what some of those concerns are. So that's a very valid point. It's difficult. There's app stores, but just you're dealing with search engine optimization. You're dealing with all the other things you're trying to do to get people to come to a website. But I would say that most consumers, on average, probably don't understand the difference between typing in a URL on a mobile browser and downloading an app and launching it on their smartphone. I mean, they just don't differentiate a whole lot between them. I mean, I know from a production standpoint, yeah, it is expensive to invest in creating a native app, but it does provide a lot of advantages. As we're all the devices that we're carrying with us every day can speak, provide push notifications. It can do a lot more to engage your audience. So once you have an audience, that audience become much more engaged because you can control, the way that you message them and interact with your content. I don't know. Sure. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. That's a good question because one of the things that we did when we did the cooking lesson mobile app is I'm not we're not here saying that the native mobile app replaces a mobile website, not at all, because so it is a hybrid strategy. And it doesn't, hyperlink like the rest of the web does. So you have to have content that people are going to share socially inside of an app that is supported with URLs, via the mobile web. I mean, it's just a matter of creating that sort of hybrid sort of experience. Does that make sense? Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yes, tablet is much more for long form. Obviously, people use tablets, tend to use tablets when they have longer periods of time. So obviously in the evenings, weeknights, weekends, that's when people spend more time on tablets. Smartphones, as you know, from your daily consumption, you use them in downtime and in between time, but you're still, your content is going to be consumed more and more on each one of those devices, but they are in different ways. That's a good question. Um, Tablets are definitely used more for longer forms of media. Sure. Yeah. Opposite experience, yeah. Yeah, it's going to vary with your audience. I mean, we've tried a lot of different monetization models. Obviously, mobile apps are very skewed towards games. And so games are a very freemium model that a lot of people are comfortable with. But we've seen in-app subscriptions, in-app purchases. Once you download a free app, I mean, there's many different ways you can go. I mean, you can provide the content free for 30 days. If people see value, then why not sign them up for 99 cents a month? I mean, there's just different ways that you can monetize the actual content, let alone the ads. Sure. Right. I think it's I think it's engagement levels. I've seen a lot of analytics discussion today about engagement, and those engagement levels are, I think, you have the opportunity to be much higher with your engagement levels because you can segment your data differently than you can on a website. Um, mhm. Yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't build a good experience for comments in a mobile app. I mean, around the content. The example you're talking about was the mobile web optimized, right? I think they had the opportunity to sign up for notifications for different topics and different types of content. So there's ways that the app can actually reach out and grab you. I mean, we all use these apps every day, and some apps are notification overload, but push notifications, if done correctly, can be very powerful to pull people back into content and back into information that they have said, yes, I rose my hand, I want to see more of that content. Sure. That's a great idea. Those are the kind of discussions, yeah, that's why we came to have those kind of discussions. We could definitely talk about aggregating and building something like that. That would really be cool. Good question. Looks like that's it, yeah. Well, the local TV stations, they're struggling in a similar way. They wanted to be able to still, some of their things are the breaking news, the weather, sports, some of the same things you guys are dealing with, and they're not going to be able to compete with Netflix or iTunes or anybody else for the mainstream broadcast content. The licensing agreements aren't there for them to be able to provide that kind of content to their audience. But all of the other hyper-local content is what people want. They want the weather, and they want the weather notifications. So a native app allows them to sign up for those, the local high school sports scores, or when the weather or something happens locally in the market that's breaking news. The app reaches out and grabs you and says, hey, there's something going on. We've got an article about it. That's what the local news station. Advertising. They're still running the same deals, the local deals and coupons, mobile coupons, different things that their traditional advertisers had that they're able to get a little bit higher revenue for, because some of them have set up more sophisticated geo-based mobile coupons when people are within a certain range, of a retailer that's got a coupon that they can use on a mobile phone because they're close by. There's just different ways you can monetize. Thanks. Sure.